Hello book lovers and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today we will be doing my December TBR. Alright guys, so it is time to do the final TBR of the year, and we do this one a little bit special. So we will still be playing my TBR game Lezerin Agedischt, which is based off of the game Mensch Agedischt, which is very similar to Parcheesi. However, this time around, we will be combining this board with a bingo board. This is a 12 space bingo board, and what I will be doing is rolling 12 times to fill those spaces. This was inspired by Amy from A Star Reads. She does a 12 days of Christmas calendar challenge that she's been doing for the last few years, and I will link her down below. I believe the day I'm filming this is the day that she released her video, so definitely go check that out. So this is kind of not that, but it is definitely inspired by it. There are 12 spaces on this bingo board. I am someone who likes to control kind of when I read things, which is why I decided to do a bingo board instead of just placing 12 books into a Christmas calendar and then drawing them out at random, which is what she does. But reading 12 books in a month can still be kind of stressful, so to take some of that stress off of myself, I make it so that I only have to get one vertical and one horizontal bingo in order for me to consider this TBR a success. So if I'm smart, at most I only need to read 6 books this month. I will be getting Kindle Unlimited this time of year, so I will be trying to get a few KU books on there, as well as some books that were on my winter TBR, which if you want to check that out, I will go ahead and link it up above and down below. Before we get into the rolls, let's see how I did on my October TBR to see if I start off this game with a punishment or with a reward. My first prompt in the month of October was a fantasy, and this is a fantasy that was to start with the letter N, and I chose the Novice Dragoneer and did not read this. So we can already consider this TBR a fail and that I will have to take a punishment prompt, but let's go through the rest of the books as well. Roll number 2 had been a horror thriller mystery that was a seasonal read, and I selected The Haunting of Ashburn House for this, and I did complete it. Roll number 3 was a contemporary with queer representation, and I chose the book Cam Fan for this, and I did complete it. Roll number 4 was a SciFi, which was to continue a series, and I ended up choosing Authority for this, and I did complete it. Roll number 5 was another mystery thriller horror, this one by a Hispanic author. I ended up choosing Mexican Gothic for this. I did read over 50% of it, but I ended up DNFing it before I finished. Alright guys, so since I unfortunately did not complete the October TBR, I will need to start with a punishment prompt. So I believe I've covered all my bases. Let's go ahead and head over to Natalie by the game board, and she will pick the punishment prompt as well as do roll number 1. All right guys, here is how our board was at the end of November. So let's go ahead and start with our punishment prompt. I believe all of the punishments are in here since I haven't had any since I restarted my game. So we're not going to say which one we don't want, because of course then we will get that one. And the one, okay, so we got a +2 rolls. I'm going to go ahead and push it back to February. So this means that in February, we will go ahead and start with 7 rolls. And for this game, we will just be doing 12 rolls. So that's kind of exciting. So I will try to remember to do this in February. All right, in that case, we are going to go to roll number 1 out of 12. And we are starting off with a contemporary. And we got, So I didn't mention this. Usually since I can only pull out a person if I roll a 5 or a 6, which means I have to move this person. In that case, that's going to send home SciFi. Usually what that means is that I would have to add an additional roll. As a Christmas gift to myself, I don't have to do this round because I have a designated number of spaces that I can fill. So too bad. The first time I actually get to implement that new rule, I can't implement it. So no punishment for kicking out that person. But we are going to go ahead and see what we need to read. It looks like this contemporary novel needs to have an average Goodreads rating of over 4 stars. All right, for roll number 1, we got a contemporary, and that was to have an average rating of over 4 stars on Goodreads. And for this, I have gone ahead and selected Cinnamon Roll by Anna Szabo. According to Goodreads, this has a 4.18 rating. It is a queer male-male contemporary romance, and we are following Max and Tom. These two seem to be very attracted to each other, but don't seem to realize that the other is reciprocating those feelings. And one day, Max puts up a request to have someone help him with his demonstrations. This is a BDSM book as far as I know, and he needs someone that he feels safe and comfortable with to do those demonstrations with. And Tom obviously volunteers to do this, and as they are doing those demonstrations and spending more time together, I'm assuming that they fall in love. So it seems like a really cute romance. It is on my winter TBR, so I was really happy to get it on this one. All right, and now we're going into roll number 2 out of 12. So this is a horror thriller mystery. Let's see if we can get a cozy mystery in here considering the time of year. 4, and I have to move this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's falling over. All right, so this book needs to be between 350 and 400 pages long. And for roll number 2, we got a horror thriller mystery, and that was to be a book between 350 and 400 pages. Luckily, another book on my winter TBR just barely meets those requirements, and that is The Ghost Bride by Youngjae Chu, and this book is 354 pages, I believe, so really just barely. But this is a story that follows a young woman who is part of a family that is facing bankruptcy, and another wealthy family approaches her and asks her to be their deceased son's ghost bride. So this pretty much means that she gets to marry a wealthy man who is dead. So the synopsis says, as she reluctantly considers the offer, Lilan is unwillingly drawn into the shadowy parallel world of the Chinese afterlife with its ghost cities and vengeful spirits. There, Lilan must uncover the Lim family's darkest secrets and the truth about her own family before she is trapped in the ghostly world forever. The reason I decided to put this on my winter TBR and this TBR is because I feel like ghost stories definitely have a little bit of a Christmassy vibe just because of the, what is it, A Christmas Carol story. So I am really hoping to get to this month. It just sounds really intriguing. All right, and we are on to a roll, whoa, hello, and a fantasy. A roll number 3 that was, and we're gonna roll a dice, and we get a 1, so we can move either this guy or this guy. Let's go with him. Okay, so this is a fantasy that needs to have 4 or more words in the title. Roll number 3 was a fantasy, and this book was to have 4 or more words in the title, and I ended up choosing The Prince's Dearest Guards by Bo Van Dalen. This is a novella, and considering how many books I have on this list, I was very happy to get a novella on here. And this follows a trans prince who is very shy, but also very much looking for some romance. And that opportunity comes to him after he and 2 very handsome guards set out to find a mystical creature. I don't know much else about this book other than it's polyamorous, that it has queer representation and trans representation within it, as well as it being relatively short. And once again, on my winter TBR, we are just really doing great with that. All right, on to roll number 4 out of, or not out of 5, out of 12. And we have a historical. And we are getting a 2, so we get to move this guy. And this is a historical story by an Indigenous author. Role number 4 was to read a historical book written by an Indigenous author, and I ended up selecting To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monoquill Black Goose. I have to admit, I really struggled to find a book for this prompt. This book is probably kind of more fantasy heavy, but according to the tags on Goodreads, it is also historical fiction. I have quite a few books by Indigenous authors that I'm looking to get to, but they either weren't available via Libby or they just didn't meet the historical requirements. But this book seems to be a Dragon Academy school. We have a young Indigenous woman who is going to this Dragon Academy, which is run by the colonizers. And I'm thinking there she stirs up some trouble. I didn't read too much into the synopsis. I've heard relatively good things about this book, and I am very excited to give it a try. All right, so far we've gotten pretty good variety in our genres. Let's go to roll number 5 out of 12. All right, a sci-fi. We're sticking with the variety here. One of everything. Next we should get a romance, right? A 6, so that means I get to take somebody out. Let me just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once again, I'm knocking a person out, but in this case, that doesn't mean I have to do an extra roll. And this is a sci-fi that is a book of the month book. Roll number 5 was a sci-fi, and this is to be a book of the month pick. And the only sci-fi I had on my book of the month shelf was Upgrade by Blake Crouch. I have read both his other books, Recursion and Dark Matter. I don't know what this book is about. I literally have not a single clue, but I have enjoyed his other 2 books, but I also feel like they have kind of similar vibes, so I really don't want to know too much going into the story, so I'm gonna go into it relatively blind. Blake Crouch usually does kind of sci-fi thriller / horror stories, more thriller than horror, but they're pretty fast-paced and have some really fun twists and are not too long and pretty quick to get through. So hopefully this is one of the ones that I get to this month. All right, and we are on roll 6 out of 12. A romance. Oh, look at that. One of everything. Incredible. All right, and this is a 1, so we're moving this guy. All right, and so this is to use another TBR game. All right, guys, so I still have my Spookopoly board from when Becca and the Books did her Spookopoly readathon this October. So we're gonna go ahead and just use this bad boy. And I'm just going to roll my 1 die since we're not worrying about doubles or anything like that. So let's see what we get. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a TBR veteran. So this is a romance novel that has been on my TBR for a long time. Roll number 6 was to read a romance, and this was supposed to use another TBR game. So we used the Spookopoly board from Becca at Becca and the Books, and we ended up getting the prompt of a TBR veteran. For this prompt, I have selected Redemption by Kenya Wright. And this is a Christmas romance that I put on my TBR back in 2021 with the expectation of reading it in December of 2021, and I didn't do so. And then I was thinking maybe I would read it around the holidays in 2022, and I also didn't read it. So hopefully 3rd time's a charm and I actually get around to reading it. This is a story about a man who used to be part of the mafia, but after his entire family was wiped out, he kind of left that life behind and is living a bit of a hermit lifestyle. He's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but one day a woman and her 2 children get stranded there during a snowstorm. This woman is running away from a abusive partner, and as our male character starts to develop feelings for her, and I'm assuming also falls in love with her children and the thought of having a life and family with her, he decides that he's going to take care of her problem for her. So it sounds like it'll be kind of a fun, if not slightly violent time, but I'm here for it. All right, for rule number 7, we have a sci-fi, and this is a booktuber, and is this backwards? Yep. Booktuber pick, and I ended up jumping onto one of my discords and put 3 suggestions on there, and just Martine was there, bam, they had an answer, and they ended up selecting In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. This is not the next TJ Klune book that I thought I would be reading, but hey, here we are, and his found family vibes are honestly just perfect for the holidays. In this book, I believe we are following one of the last humans who is living with a bunch of robots. And one day another robot is found by this little family and they kind of fix him up, and I think he might accidentally send off some sort of little warning that causes the bad guys of this book to come and kidnap one of the other robots of this group, and so they all set out to try and retrieve that robot, and there's a romance between the human and some sort of AI character of sorts. So I don't know. I've heard really good things about this book, which is nice. I think Under the Whispering Door didn't go over as well. Most people seem to be rather happy with this book, so I am more than excited to give it a try. All right, and we are on to rule number 8 out of 12. Another romance. A 5, so we get to take someone out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa. All right, so this is a romance that I bought before 2023. For rule number 8, we got a romance, and this is to be a book that I bought before 2023. And this book I bought in December of 2022, so it counts. And that is A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. This is one of the books I was hoping to get to by the end of the year. It's also a 5-star prediction. I have been terrible at completing that list of actually reading those 5-star books, so I'm glad to get to another one. This is a historical romance that features a trans main character. We are following Viola, and when she goes to war and is presumed dead, she takes advantage of that to return to her home as a woman, and no one really knows that she is the person she used to be, but one day she runs into an old friend of hers, and I believe they strike up a relationship. And I don't know anything else that happens in this like 500-page book, almost 500-page book, but I have enjoyed Alexis Hall's work in the past, and I have literally heard nothing but good things about this book. So I am definitely gonna try to prioritize getting to this book this month. On to rule number 9 out of 12. Another historical. And a 4, and I don't have anyone out, so I can just move this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my gosh, we're killing so many people. All right, so this is a sci-fi that is similar to the last movie or TV show that I watched, which I'm trying to think what the last thing I watched is. I honestly can't remember. All right, so for rule number 9, we got a historical, and this was to be similar to a TV show or movie that I have recently watched. And we're gonna stretch this like taffy. We're stretching real far here, guys. You're just gonna have to trust me. So this weekend was my birthday, and I turned 28 years old, and so did Toy Story. So me and my family ended up watching the first Toy Story movie, and then ended up just watching the second one as well. So that is the most recent thing that I have watched, and because of that, I have selected Heaven Official's Blessing Volume 6 by Mo Hyung Tong Siu, which makes sense, right? I will say that In the Lives of Puppets would have been like perfect for this, but that isn't historical. But it's a historical fantasy story, and the reason I chose this is because in this world there are heavenly officials, there's mortals, there's also ghosts. And in the previous book, volume 5, our characters were pretending to be puppet masters, which are ghosts that can kind of build puppets and then control those puppets. And Toy Story, in the second one especially, we kind of see Woody's life on the TV screen, and in that, he was a puppet. So, like I said, we were stretching it, but I really needed to get this book on my TBR, and it kind of works. So give it to me, please. I'm begging you. In this series, we are following Shilan, and he is the prince of what used to be a very prosperous nation, and at the age of 17, he ascended to godhood. About 800 years have passed since that happened, and he had fallen from grace and then ascended and then fallen and has now ascended for a third time. Throughout this series, we get to learn more about his past, as well as follow him as he takes on different missions that are fighting ghosts and ghouls that are wreaking havoc on the mortal realm. By his side is Hao Chen, who is one of the most powerful ghost kings. Most people tell Shilan that he should avoid Hao Chen because he's evil, but Hao Chen is incredibly devoted to Shilan, and this is actually a very slow burn romance between the two of them. So let me tell you, we're in volume 6, and you can definitely tell that they have feelings for each other, and Shilan seems to be becoming more and more aware of his feelings, but there still probably won't be anything until like the last book, which is book 8. And I believe that is coming out in December, if it hasn't already come out. But let's just say I'm super excited to continue the series and finish it up. All right, 10 out of 12. A fantasy. A 3, so we're not going to do this guy. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's nice for fantasy. Continue a series. All right, guys, we're already at roll number 10, and this was another fantasy, and it was to be a continuation of a series. For this book, I chose a sci-fi fantasy. I feel like usually I consider it more sci-fi, but I want to read it, so I'm considering it fantasy. And that is Win by Lily Mayne. Unfortunately, I didn't get to it in November. It wasn't on my official TBR, but I had mentioned in my November TBR video that I would like to get to it. I didn't, but hopefully I will get to it this month. And this is a novella. It's book 3.5 in the Monstrous series. This is a series that follows individual monsters in each individual book as they find their human love match. About 20 years ago, there was a rift between our human world and the world that these monsters came from. And when the monsters kind of rushed into our world and were like, wow, look at this, extra space, our military ended up kind of blowing everything up in their attempt to destroy these monsters. Hence, this being set in a post-apocalyptic settings, we have overcrowded cities, we have lots of powerful military bases, and we also have the wastes, which is where there's not really any human activity anymore, but there are quite a few monsters as well as raiders who are humans that are they'd rather take their chances with the monsters than the disease and poverty of the cities, as well as the cruelty of the military. Win is a novella that follows the couple from the first book, which is Soul Eater. I am so happy to be back with this couple. They are still my favorite, and obviously they end up together at the end of the book. That's not a spoiler, it's a romance, but Win is a being that has been alive for a very long time, like thousands of years, and he will probably be alive for a few thousand more, which Danny, a human, will not. So Win obviously would like to see how he can extend Danny's life so that they can live a long, happy life together, and I believe they kind of head through the rift to the world of the monsters to see if they can go ahead and do that. So pretty much they're getting married. So time for a celebration. I am super excited to get to this. Plus it's super short, so I will definitely be prioritizing it. We are approaching the end. 11 out of 12. Another contemporary. And move this guy to a repeat author. So this is an author I have already read from. All right, our second to last roll, roll 11, was a contemporary, and this was to be from a repeat author. I really wanted to use my KU subscription for this again, but I didn't really have too many authors on there that I have already read in the past. So I actually ended up going with Junk Shop Blues by Cole McCade. This is the second book in a series that he's writing. The first one was called Criminal Intentions, either that or the series is called that, I can't remember, but this is a series that follows two cops or investigators who are investigating a series of murders. I also believe that there is going to be a somewhat slow burn romance between these two officers, and there is also quite a bit of representation in here. I believe there is an age gap, and I think the older one is Jewish and from Israel, and then the younger one is East Asian, asexual, and autistic. So there's quite a lot going on there. I did have a decent time with the first one. I did not realize that it was a series. I thought it would be a series of companion novels instead of a continuation series, but that is totally fine. Now that I know what's going on, I think that I will enjoy the series a lot more. I did read Cole McCade's Undue Arrogance trilogy and absolutely loved it, so I am more than happy to continue reading their work. All right, and we are on to our final roll. Another contemporary and a 6, so we pull someone else out. Let me just make sure he's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, just making sure he wasn't landing on himself. All right. And this is a match my outfit. And for our final prompt, we have a contemporary once again, and that is to match my outfit. And as you can see, I have my Snow is Falling, Books Are Calling shirt, my Christmas earrings, and a couple of little scrunchy hairbands that I have on my wrist. So of course I had to go with a Christmas romance, and that is Let Your Hearts Be Light by Faye Quinn. This is an author I've been meaning to try for a little while. Did not think I would be starting with their Christmas romances, but here we are. If you like the single dad trope, I believe this book has 2 single dads in it. It is a male-male romance. It is also on KU, and we are following the grumpy dad, I will refer to him as, and the sunshine dad, because I don't remember their names, so that's what they will be. So a grumpy dad has a son who he obviously loves very much, and this son has a crush on the daughter of Sunshine Dad. So it seems that they live in a small town that every year does kind of this Christmas tradition of a buddy system where you randomly get paired with someone and then you do a bunch of kind of Christmas activities with them. It could be considered casual, or it could also lead to some romance, which I'm assuming is what will happen in this book. And the grumpy dad lets his son rig it so that he is placed with Sunshine Dad, so that grumpy dad's son can get closer to Sunshine Dad's daughter. And then obviously they start falling for each other. If you took a shot every time I said grumpy dad and Sunshine Dad, I suggest you drink a glass of water and eat some bread. I am really hoping that I enjoy this author. Like I said, I have a few books from them, and there's actually a second book in this series as well that if I enjoy this, I will probably try to get to next year as well. All right, guys, so here are the physical books that I'm hoping to get to. We also have Cinnamon Roll. We also have The Princess Dearest Guards, as well as To Shape a Dragon's Breath. Junk Shop Blues, and Let Your Hearts Be Light. So I am going to go ahead and randomly put these books into my bingo board using a spinning wheel. I'm afraid I'm going to be lazy and not show that to you, seeing as I have a feeling this TBR is already gonna take a while to edit considering how many rolls I did, but I will go ahead and show you the final product here. I just want to let you know that down below I will have the bingo board with the prompts and the genres within parentheses. If you would like to use this bingo board this holiday, I would love if you did so, and you can of course use just the prompts, or if you want to do the hard mode, do the prompts along with the corresponding genre. If you're gonna do it, I would love to know what books you're planning to pick, or if you're going to update your Instagram story with your progress, I would love if you would tag me so I can keep track of that. I do have my Instagram linked down below. All right guys, so I am super excited about this TBR. I am planning on vlogging all throughout December, so you will get to experience me reading these books. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. I would also love to know what you are planning on reading this holiday season. As always, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!